Wait, who's that?
Okay, this is the council chambers. Say hello.
I can hear you, Bruce.
Great,
I got you, Bruce. I think we're good.
thank you. Okay, ready to go? All right. Welcome everyone to the Atkins City Council meeting for August 27th, 2024. And at this time, we'll begin with a pledge of allegiance. We pass on stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will begin tonight with the roll call. We have the members present here in the council chambers, and that would be David Fisher
Present.
and Samantha Peterson.
Present.
This time Jim Kane is absent. Moving on to the online council, EJ Bell
Present.
and Trevor Dursky.
Present.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to item number 2 on the agenda, this is to motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I would like to make a motion also to move 8 to 7 and 7 to 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I would second that. It
The
makes
reason-
more sense to,
The reason I want to do that, for everybody's, first of all, I don't know what 7 is, but I'd rather hear a presentation first before we make any resolutions approving anything.
yeah, I would agree with that.
Your business is at the option of the chair, but I will agree with that. We will substitute 8 for 7. So, any further comments? Okay, hearing none, the roll call vote would be David Fisher,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky,
Aye.
EJ Bell.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 3, the consent agenda for this evening. For the city council minutes of August 13th and August 19th. List of bills for approval. Resolution authorizing payment of contractors pay request 7 of the contract DRH-013. Resolution to approve the Atkins Friends Library book sale and vendor for November 15th and 16th.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Motion second.
Second.
Okay, we'll give that to Trevor Dursky, second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, the roll call vote will be David Fisher,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky,
Aye.
EJ Bell,
Aye.
motion carries. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda this evening, resolution approving law enforcement agreement with the County of Benton for the sheriffs to provide police protection for FY '25.
Motion to approve resolution for law enforcement agreement.
Any second on that motion?
I make the second for it.
Okay. Yes, EJ Bell, second.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Essentially, that's the same.
I got something quick.
Okay, go ahead. Trevor?
It's just the amounts well below budget, so I followed up with Sandy, for some detail on that, and it sounds like there's maybe some development, at the county level, and I think we probably need to maybe keep a closer eye on it. I invite a deputy to come out maybe and just kind of talk to us, give us an update, once in a while, we can discuss the cadence on that, and I think it'd be a good thing to do.
Any further discussion? This essentially is the same rate we paid last year, so it's a good deal. All right, with the roll call vote, David Fisher.
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky,
Aye.
and EJ Bell.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 5. Discussion regarding the capital improvements plan projects and proposed FY '25 maintenance projects. I'll turn it over to Sandy, City Administrator.
Hey, actually, I would invite Nick Eisenbacher to come up, and then in whatever order, Nick and I are going to share, and Todd Damon's here as well to provide input on both the CIP, the capital improvement projects that are slated for FY '25, and then probably more Todd and I talking about just some maintenance items that are less capital improvements, more maintenance items that are kind of not in Nick's purview, but on the same subject matters. So I thought we'd give you some updates on, what's gonna, when and what you're gonna start seeing over the next few weeks and months as far as those go. So if it's all right, Mayor, I'll have Nick give his capital improvements stuff first, and then we'll follow up with some of the maintenance. It's a lot less stuff on our side, so.
Yes, Nick, go ahead.
I don't know if I assume Sandy sent out the engineer's report to you guys. So I'll just go over kind of quickly what's in that report. So lead and copper inventory, that's ready for you guys to use. We got the survey completed, sent you guys the draft, so that can go live. I sent the links and everything to Sandy for you guys to start using. We also have a mailer that I've sent a draft to Sandy for her review that we can send out to citizens and kind of give them a little heads up. It's got a QR code below that they can, go to start filling out that survey. We get that inventory going. We have kind of done some preliminary work on the survey, just getting the Excel spreadsheet filled out with the information we currently have. But as we get that survey filled out, we'll update that inventory. I'll leave the sludge project for last for now. The sanitary sewer replacement over here for the water plant discharge. We've got the design done. We've got the plant specs into the DNR. It's ready. They're ready to issue the permit, except for we're having a slight easement issue and property line discrepancy that we found. So we're kind of working through those issues to kind of clear that up to make sure that everyone's paperwork is in order and make sure you guys have a legal easement for that sewer line. If not, since it's been there for so long, it's really just gonna be a paperwork issue, but we wanna make sure everything's cleaned up, both from the city side, but also the county side, to make sure there's no issues in the future. The water tower painting, that was a part of this year's fiscal year. We've got the plans and specs 90% done, so it's just a matter of when you guys want to spend the money to do that project. In my engineer's report, I kind of provided a couple options. We can either get that sent out here within the month of September, get some quotations received towards the end of September or the October, get contracts signed and give the contractor some flexibility if the weather allows them to begin the work this year, or we can wait till after the first of the year during the winter months, January, February, get those quotations, and then you guys can give them the go ahead as soon as weather allows in the spring to kind of get that work done. So just kind of looking for direction from council as to kind of which path you want to take from a scheduling standpoint.
Do you mind describing that project just a little bit?
Yeah, so there's some exterior painting that needs to be done, especially on the lower half of the tower due to some past vandalism and some wear and tear. So that's kind of what this project will do, is kind of clean that all up and improve the tower's aesthetics on the outside of it.
So the green would be removed on the bottom.
Yep, and then a lot of the work's going to happen kind of towards the base of the tower. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's
The lower cone.
yeah, the lower cone section too. So there's been vandalism in the past, so this should obviously fix the issues that have occurred in the past, but hopefully deter it from happening again. So
Any feedback?
I'm sorry if I missed it. When was the last time this was done?
oh man, it's been 10 years maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like it's been done since I've been here, but it happened maybe 2015, 2016 maybe, if I had to guess.
Yeah, we painted the inside.
I think it was 2000, I think it was 2016.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I share the concern if there was a concern. I mean, the way that the bottom half of the tank itself looks right now.
And the inside was done when, Todd? The inside,
There was just a big project finished last year to kind of touch up all the inside. They'll have the inside, or like the inside portion of the bowl where all the water basically is stored, will have to be done in 5 or so years, but a large portion of the interior was done already. The reason we didn't do what they call the wet part of the bowl completely was just from a staging and timing standpoint with the potential new water tower. We kind of wanted to align that project with those two projects together to make sure the city wasn't out a large sum of water for a long period of time. So, but the rest of the interior has been cleaned, touched up, cleaned up, fixed now as part of last year's project.
I thought I heard that before.
Yep.
So everything's exterior at this point.
Yep.
So you mentioned the bottom part. What about the top, right underneath
The
wall?
power wash, should also power washed as
And
well.
that's
Wash
included in this project? or-
Yeah, the power washing, yes.
Okay.
Our desire would be to move on the contract to allow the contractor some flexibility so that if they, their work allows it all. I mean, the idea would be if they have more flexibility, we might get better bids.
Correct.
But we don't know that. So if the council wants to ask us to put those bids together, we can get them together very quickly and get them in front of you. If you want us to delay for some other reason, we can start in January.
Does that require a vote or? what
Yep,
does
just
that-
direction. Yep, just consensus of council to Because you vote on the work once it comes back.
I don't see any reason to delay it. If you feel like it's helpful, then get the ball rolling. I would be supportive of that, I guess.
We gotta know what it's gonna cost us no matter what. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make a difference if it's done now or it's done next year. I mean, at least we've got an idea of what it's gonna cost us.
Yeah, I'm on board with getting bids.
And the one thing I would say is, just going back a little bit on the sanitary sewer replacement project that's right before this. That one, we are bringing, to you as soon as we get through this kind of land issue that Nick describes. And it is more urgent. We're gonna tell you that it needs to be bid out now. The pipe has failed, that kind of thing. So I just want to make that contrast that we're probably not, on that project, we're not gonna ask when we should do it because it was the #1 project for water. Whereas this one, we have a little bit of leeway, but.
You're talking about the,
Sanitary sewer replacement. I know it says sanitary sewer, it's actually water.
No,
It's actually from the water.
No, that's sanitary sewer. That's
It's
right.
from the water plant. Like the
Yes.
pipe comes,
Well,
that's why they just throw me out.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's part of it
It's
takes,
part of
the main discharge for the water plant ends up in here and then it goes out into the main distribution system. So it is a sanitary sewer,
Yeah.
because we do have one residential sewer hook up to it, so, yeah, it is from, I don't know how you would divide the money for that, but we would call it sanitary sewer for our purposes, so.
But it has failed. So that was, if you remember from budget, we said that was literally the #1, we need to get out and do it. So we have continued, we have worked on, Nick has put together the documentation. We're working on getting the easements in place, and you're gonna see that as soon as we get that easement stuff worked out, so that the paperwork, basically the land pieces of it is in place. So I just don't, the reason we brought the entire engineer's report to you is to have you kind of get some exposure to these projects, because then they're gonna come up and you're gonna, kind of like the sludge removal project, we're gonna bring them for you for a decision, for a vote to go forward. And we don't know the timeline on the manhole and.
I mean, I'll check tech space with my survey crew. I know they were working on getting that all
It
set
should
up,
be
but
September, 1st of October
Yep.
latest, so.
Yep.
Anyways, I don't know that we mentioned that when we went through that part, so. But we'll bring, water tower meeting back to you as well then. Then I'll turn it over.
So moving on to the next project is the Ridgeview Pond Outlet. So this is where, obviously, that stormwater area discharges the pond. There's had that riprap issue for quite a few years. So this is putting the plans and specs formally together to fix that issue, repair that area, and make it function as it was originally designed. Like the other, like the water tower project, we're pretty much 90% done complete. Just need to basically finish up the front end specs based on when as council is agreeable to us to send this out for bids. So this is basically going to include regrading, removal of the existing revetment, replacing it, fixing that area with some flowable mortar, so to avoid this issue happening again where we had so much rain that came through and it washed out all that revetment and then causing the erosion that ensued and has ensued since. So we'll clean all that area up and fix that. We're also going to add sidewalk to along the front of that property to connect the existing ones that are there, so that way there's better walkability in the area. And then per request from Public Works, we're going to add a driveway, just an apron in there, so that way when they go do maintenance, they're not tearing up that sidewalk that we just put in. So tentatively would like to try to kind of get quotes back to the city towards the first part of October, so you guys can have quotes to consider at your first meeting in October, if that's kind of how you guys want to proceed. Otherwise, we can't delay this. However, it would be nice to kind of get a contractor on board, so that way they might have some winter work late fall work where maybe the weather's drier, so they're not having to dodge the rain and
So my first comment is, I'd rather it come to the city council myself with bids. That way I can make decisions based off of that versus the budget. My other thing, I'm just saying, that's my preference. What other people think, that's, they can do what they want. My other thing is I'm concerned that we've got erosion because riprap is made for erosion control. So there's gonna be, there had to be another failure there for something, for that to happen, because that's what riprap's all about.
yeah, potentially, we may uncover something when they start digging up some of that riprap. It could have just been a volume of water and a misplacement of riprap at the time. I wasn't 100% familiar with the area before the damage to it, so I couldn't tell you exactly.
Have you seen it?
I've seen it now. I'm familiar with how it looks now, but I couldn't tell you what it, I guess what it looked like, but I didn't see it before the issues, before it was disturbed. So what we're
What's
gonna,
your take off of it by looking at it right now?
there was a lot of water that came down. It somehow it got underneath all the riprap and it literally picked up the riprap or pushed the riprap down. So what we're proposing is when they put the riprap down, put a flowable mortar in between the riprap to basically kind of create a more stable place for that water to get to, and so it can't undermine the riprap.
If I can jump in real quick on that, would your assessment, or if you could give an assessment, was that from a severe event, or was that the result of just like kind of ongoing events? Does that make sense?
Yeah, my guess would be there was probably a series of events that maybe led to a large catastrophic event. Because typically what we went to see just the magnitude of what happened of erosion and the amount of riprap out of one event. So it could have been just several heavy rains in a sequence that kind of just slowly deteriorated that area, would be my guess.
Okay. Does Todd have any assessment on this? I mean, it's kind of an interesting question, right? We want to make sure we don't just rebuild the same thing and have the same thing happen again if there was indeed a failure.
Right, and I agree with Nick. There were some discoveries there that were surprising. Part of it was the undermining. There was found to be a fair amount of water that at one point was flowing under and around. So it wasn't per se blatantly obvious unless you really got in there, but it was surprising. Yeah, one event actually triggered it, but as erosion is, once things start, it can decay rapidly, but it was a surprising find. And but I think what Nick's idea was putting that riprap in the base to hold that, to stop that initial failure, will do a lot of things.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess I take it you guys would like just go get bids, go get quotes on it and bring
I'm only
numbers.
Speaking for myself.
Yeah, no, I guess I was trying to see if the other council,
I mean, don't we have to go through plans and specs? No,
I've got plans and specs pretty much ready. It's just,
but that has to come here and we.
if
shoot
it-
or no?
well, if it's a quote, it's under the bid threshold,
Okay.
then we can go through the quote process. So like,
Okay.
we can certainly bring whatever plans and specs to the council that they want.
I
We-
think we just need to understand, so
Yep.
the council understands what you're choosing. So if it's over a certain amount, do you know the dollar amount?
Yeah, it's for streets, it's like in the $60,000 range, but anything they consider vertical or non-paving, basically, it's like 120,000, I think, somewhere
So
there.
over that, we have to do public bidding, which is like what you're gonna see in the sludge removal, where it's plans and specs.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying,
Okay, okay.
So, but he's saying, I think if we're under that threshold, they can go out, get bids, just like we would as employees. Bring you the lowest bidder and then you decide whether to award the contract. I think that's what you're asking for. And there's,
I'd like to know what we're gonna be expending, that's for sure. I mean,
so that's the
yeah,
bid
I mean,
process, but-
we're still gonna be saying, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah,
We're just saying it a little differently is all.
yeah, so, well, and part of kind of what Sandy's alluded to, so with bids, everything has to come to you guys, and you authorize it. With quotes, like, I don't have to bring you my plans and specs per se, I can give them to Todd and we can go through the process. But if you guys want, as a city council, for the next council, I can have signed plans and specs, you guys can review them, authorize it to go out to bid, or like I said, Todd and I can go get quotes and bring you everything all at once for a.
And honestly, I don't think there's a distinction there.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm not gonna second guess the engineer's plans and stuff, I guess. So if it's under that threshold, probably expedites things to have them do the quotes, bring that award to you, and then you know what you're spending. I mean, that's, on public bids, we can't know. We have to put it out for bid, they bid on it, and that's when we decide whether to award it. But you do have estimates. I mean,
Yeah,
to be
we've
fair
got,
to you,
we've got a cost estimate that
the
we put in
engineer's
the,
required to give us
in
an estimate.
yep, and that's, was provided and is in the CIP. So we have a cost estimate, it's just a matter of getting a contractor to provide us with a firm cost that you guys can act on. So, and that's what we can do. So we can go with this kind of rough rotation schedule, and then the first meeting in October, you guys can have quotes from contractors, and you guys can make a formal decision at that point whether you proceed or table it and do it later.
Nick,
So,
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. It would be really nice if we could just take an hour one day and walk through these projects at the sites. That would be really nice.
Sure.
That way we could actually see what the heck's going on. And, you know, when you're sitting in here and you've not seen it, and you don't know the sense of urgency for it, and here you are voting on something that you're gonna say, well, I wanna push it off till next year. You might not be able to. Take, for instance, the erosion problem. If you've got an erosion problem out there and we have another spring like we had this year, holy crap, we're gonna be into China at that point in time. I'm just being sarcastic, but
yeah, no,
we should be able to see these projects
absolutely.
and get a visual of it.
Yeah, I will work with Sandy to, I don't know if you guys want to work with Sandy, or Sandy can help figure out a time schedule for that, and be more happy to walk through these things, so, physically see them. So, and then just a quick update, which, you know, it kind of goes to a little bit that the street repairs, you know, we're still planning on a January kind of bid time frame for that, just from a scheduling standpoint. So we've started to work on bidding documents as time's allowed, but obviously we'll have those ready to go for the city by January. And then just going back to the one that I kind of skipped over, is the sludge removal. So this one's just a little more critical from a time of year standpoint. So biosolids are basically, it's a byproduct of your wastewater treatment plant process. They're made in every wastewater treatment plant process. And so we had estimated anywhere from 7 to 10 years, you'd have to remove them to basically to get the storage you need to allow your process to continually run without issues or causing tide issues with it coming back into the plant. So the biosolids themselves can only be applied when the crops are out of the field, so fall and spring. So what we're proposing is to put in our estimate is around $200,000. That was what I was provided in the CIP at budget time. To be honest with you, sludge costs have been all over the board, so 200,000 is kind of on the higher end of what we've seen. But you know, I've bid projects 3 months with 3 months in between them, and they went from 10 cents to 2 cents a gallon. So there can be quite a discrepancy even a short amount of time for bids, so,
Where's this sludge at?
There's, remember there's 4 lagoon cells. It's in the southeast lagoon cell.
So you gotta take that out of that lagoon cell. How are you getting it out of that lagoon cell?
They normally use it, it looks like big grain augers, except they got humps on the end of them. And they'll put one end of that in there.
So they
circulate
slurry it?
thing. They'll make a slurry out of it. And if, I would just say, last time we had a farmer that worked with the program, and they did an umbilical to his farm field, which was one of the neighboring fields, and they were able to knife it in, so there was no poly, so they pump it out of there, they keep it stirred up, looks like a gray milk slurry.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, unless you wanna let everybody else know.
Yeah, but that's how.
We're within 3 weeks of getting the crops started taking up. Estimate of 3 weeks. Do we have a farmer identified? And do we have a contract with that farmer yet?
so we typically let that on to the sludge removal folks to deal with, so they get all the agreements, they find the farmers, they do all that themselves, so it takes, basically the city, their contract is just with the sludge removal, the company, and then they take care of everything else, all the DNR programming that's required, all the agreements that they would need for the farmers.
So keep in consideration, we're within 3 weeks of harvesting grain, starting to take out crops. We are probably maximum of 3 months before we're frozen and we can't get in there. Could be a little bit longer, but who knows?
Yes, so our bid, our timeframe would be, we have it sent out by the end of the week to contractors for them to start bidding it. They'll have quotes to the city by September 18th, so you guys can consider them at the September 24th meeting. And then once it's awarded, you know, it's just a matter of signing contracts and they can get going.
And this is gonna require a public hearing?
That would be on the 23rd. The public hearing is at the same time as the award. Public hearing is basically on the plans and specs. It's not like the public hearings we've had for budget. It's a different,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, so what tonight would be is, there's a resolution, I think, on the agenda that would set the bid time, the bid date, the bid time, and then the public hearing date, which typically we do at the same time we do it after the bids, because typically you want to do it on the entirety of the plans and specifications. So if there's addendums that are issued throughout the bid phase, when the council approves everything, you're approving the whole thing and not just the plans and specs, and then the addendums are kind of left hanging type of situation.
We talked about this a little bit because of how when we talk about fire station timeline, so it made more sense to me. So today, I think I said when you set the public hearing for the fire station, today is when you need to decide that that's the project you're bidding. Because we send the notice out, it's published in the newspaper, the bid packet goes out. He may then amend them based on, contractor says, they need some change or something comes to light or whatever, it's unusual. And so today you're saying, yes, this is the project we want to bid. And then on the public hearing.
What I heard in budget time was, this is a must. We must do it because we are at 70%. Don't quote my number. I thought it might have been, what was it, Todd?
Yeah, we're
We're at 70% capacity, and so we only had 30% that we were going to be, and we're at that point, we're done,
Yeah.
right? So this was not an option, we have to do this.
Right.
So that's why it's in front of you today.
Understood. I mean,
Yeah, we think.
this is a no-brainer, we gotta do it.
Once there's a lot of specialized equipment, there's a lot of expertise here, and there's a lot of paperwork. But on site, these guys will be in and out here in 3 days. It happens fast.
Right.
It's the
I mean,
fastest
they're
money I
not-
think you've ever spent, but there is a lot behind the scenes, a lot of liability, a lot of research.
So yeah, you're really approving the project today on what you'll see on the 28th, 7th, 8th.
I have the 24th, I think that's.
It is the 24th, sorry, is the award of the bid. He'll have the bids back. They open publicly on the 18th. They'll come back here. You'll see the awards. It'll have to be awarded to the lowest responsive bidder. You don't get to pick. It's if he decides that they're responsive and responsible, you take the low bid. That's the little public bidding thing, and we move forward. So
Again, I'm in agreement. I understand, the severity of this and the need for it. When I discussed this at budget time, that was my point was, these are the needs, and then you have your wants. And, I just need to know what the needs are, and we'll address the needs, and we can take a look at the wants.
absolutely. That's all.
That's all. Well, I didn't know if you needed me to talk about any of the other maintenance
Sure,
maybe
yes,
as well.
stay right
or
there,
how
and
you
I'll
wanted to-
chime in if that's all right. In your packet too, is a couple of other maintenance items. Again, we figured since you're thinking about utility stuff, we'd give you the rest of the current story. So we have some, what I finally figured out is water supply maintenance items, things that when we met with Nick after budget kind of May to set the FY25 project list. These are on it. They aren't projects that Nick and Snyder they've already done their work for us. They've, given us some professional advice that we needed, but it really becomes an in-house project. And Todd, I'm going to run through them and then feel free to chime in, and Todd will probably answer any questions you have. So we have 2 wells. Well number 3 is at the water treatment plant. There are a couple of things that we have in the budget and that are talked about as needs. One is the generator transfer switch for the existing generator. There is a generator on that well. Right now, if we need to transfer it over to generator power, we need to call an electrician in and switch it over. This transfer switch would allow for an automatic, so if the power goes out in Atkins, which it does, I've learned that since I've been here, you want the well to go onto generator power so that it keeps pumping into the plant. That was, if you remember, like a $15,000 project. It is a purchase essentially with a little bit of install from an electrician. So that's a project that you'll see coming to you soon. The next one is a well pump and motor. We, for a year or so, I don't know how long, we've been running with a borrowed undersized pump and motor. Northway had one that we could use. We had one that failed, I guess. And so we borrowed one, and it is in place right now. It is not the one that has been spec'd for our use. So what we need to do, we think we've estimated $30,000. We need to have Northway order us the properly sized pump and motor and have it installed. So you're going to see that coming to you. At some point, we need to put our own pump in there. And then the other thing that the DNR...
Hey, Sandy?
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. Are we leasing that, or are we actually just borrowing?
We are borrowing it, to my knowledge. So
Yeah.
that's adds to the urgency a little bit, is at some point they're going to decide that we borrowed it too long. I think we borrowed it with the understanding that we were speccing the appropriate pump.
Yes, yeah.
Nick specced it for us some time ago. It's time for us to invest in the pump that is ours. So, yeah, I think our goodwill might be.
But that was the partnership of a very, very good vendor. We were in an emergency situation. They had a used one on the shelf. They said, guys, let's put this in the ground until we can have time to breathe here. We put it in, it works great. Northway is a very busy company. They said, at a later date, we'll come and change this out with a new one. It's not been a rush, and this is also in direct communication with Northway, because it was always an on-the-shelf item. Now they're getting to be a lead time on this equipment. And so to stay away from another emergency, it's time that we correct this and just get our equipment back in there. But this has been a great partnership and courtesy from Northway Well and Pump, that they loaned this to us, and with there's, like I say, been complete agreement between the two of us. But
So
it's
that lead time
to-
makes us a little nervous because they don't have another one on the shelf, just waiting for us if something happens, and this is a pretty,
Yeah.
obviously a critical function,
Yeah,
so.
we'd hate for it to change from a scheduled event to an emergency event.
So this is one that we would bring back, it'd be a resolution of purchase essentially for you. And then the last thing on well number 3 is, they call it protection. Each of our wells should have bollards around it so that if you ran into it, you're not knocking the well over. It's required by the DNR, so that's on that project. That same thing is on well 2, which I'll get to now. Well 2, we'll show this to you on the council tour. If you don't know where it is, I had to have it located for me. It's across the street from the old water tower. It's the old water plant. It's in a kind of an odd place, so if you didn't know what it was, you wouldn't know. You see it, yeah, it is, it's in Bilger.
Actually, city property. But
Yeah, we did buy it, yeah. I mean, the land is owned by us, but it wouldn't look like it on just walking by. So a couple of things need to happen on that well. One is to raise the wellhead. The DNR says it's not high enough. So you're going to see a proposal from us to have a company come in and raise it. Installation of those bollards, same kind of thing. And then this is the one that was in the budget for a generator, allowing for this well to also have backup generator power. Right now, there's not a generator at all in this. The generator would be located in the old water plant, which will show you that's where the controls for this well is across the street. So those 3 things are on well 2.
So Todd, we got a generator on the other well. That supplied us for the 7 days for when we were during derecho.
Right.
Why would we need another generator?
I lived through too many things where we had redundancy and we still failed. Well, to say tornado hits part of the water plant, takes out, there's a lottery. I just had to sit down and make a list, but I have seen where we've said it'll never happen and it happened. I could have, this well go down for maintenance. I could have issues up here, and we could have, something happen, take out power. We have no power to run our backup, our second well.
I'll just say where I am at with this is we've planned for failure. We've addressed failure. Having redundancy for failure just seems like you need to have the cash to do that. And if we're going to be spending $200 and some odd thousand on sludge removal, I question it is all. That's where I'm at with it, just so everybody knows. The other thing is the switch, Todd. Is that just a flip of the switch, or is that a switch gear?
That is a open cabinet switch gear. That to do that, that can be a flashpoint. So that needs to be a trained professional to do that. So if we need to switch the generator over in the water plant, I bring an electrician to do that.
So you have to bring in somebody to turn on our generator.
No, I can run the generator, but to connect the generator to house power is where the transfer switch comes in. And that's the throw of the breaker, and that's connecting things, and that's where you need a professional.
So when I go on this tour, can somebody explain this to me?
Sure.
That way I can get a visual of it.
Yep.
Okay.
But it's going from, can we make it work, Yeah, which we have then. Is it the way it's designed? No.
I get that you don't want to throw switchgear. But I need to understand why you would need to do that, because
It's become a very, very big issue with all your training when they talk about flash points.
no, don't get me wrong. I don't think that any non-trained individual should be throwing switchgear. I never would have ever say that. My point was, why would we need to do that? I need to get that in my brain and understand that before I would want to.
So the automatic part doesn't work, so we're doing this.
Why doesn't it automatically do it?
It's a $3,000 circuit board that failed twice within 10 minutes. I can go in, during the tour, I can show all that, but
That's fine.
there's something.
It's to bring the capability like you would have in your home where it automatically switches over.
You know how it happens at my house?
But I'm just saying, if you get a typical home installation,
I know.
you would have an automatic switchover. And that's what we're trying to accomplish here, is to get the capabilities back to the original design.
So did it work during the ratio?
We manually switched it over. And that was our power for the week. So with the water plant, I have a little bit of time to breathe. With the wastewater plant, you have zero amount of time. I mean, you got water coming in, you got to get it out. When it's a matter of running the water plant, there is time to make a phone call. That's how we've gotten by in the past. Hopefully.
Next time.
So I think we're ready for the resolution
Okay,
under 5.
all right, so item number.
Hey, real quick, what we got, sorry,
Okay,
well, we got the engineer in the room. The phase 3 for the clean and televise, the gravity mains, is that ongoing in 25, fiscal year 25?
Yes. I haven't talked with Kenway. I don't know, Todd, if you've talked with, we'll reach out to Kenway and see when they want to get that scheduled.
Because if I'm reading this correctly, the CIP correctly, this is how we found some of these, critical issues, specifically the manhole 48 or 40. And we've got 4 phases here, so we're not even done until the next fiscal year. So it didn't get addressed, and I'm sure it didn't because it's not a project like the others we're talking about. It's just something to quick update on that.
We'll reach out to Kenway and get an update from them and get that to the council.
With the 4 phases, the phase 1 was in the oldest part of town. Phases 3 and 4 are in the newest part of town. So we were expecting to find fewer and fewer events or challenges or whatever the key word is anymore, as we did the more televising, because it would be in the newer sections of town. So we're hoping we've already found the worst, and the last 2 phases won't be quite so.
Okay, yeah, I share that hope. Thanks, guys.
That's the hope.
okay. Moving on to item number 5A. This is a resolution setting a public hearing for the proposed contract documents. This would be for the Acton Sledge Removal Project. So we have a motion to set that public hearing date.
I'll make motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. With that, any further discussion on that particular motion for the sludge removal? Okay, hearing none, the roll call vote will be Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
David Fisher.
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
EJ Bell.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item number 6, discussion and possible action to designate a person to act as the owner's representative for the construction phase of the fire department project. So with that, it's open for council discussion.
Yeah, I had a conversation with the fire chief, Dan Ramelsberg. I think he would be a good person to designate for this. He's told me that he's willing to find time for this as well, which I was grateful to hear. So I'll make a motion to designate Dan Ramelsberg.
I'll second that.
Good. We have a motion and a second.
May I ask you to also include the amount of authority, like out there?
Oh,
Provided in the motion.
sure. So this is something I talked to you about. I'm unfamiliar.
Is Dan there in the room?
Yes.
He is in the room, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, sorry, because I had a question for him, so.
So when I asked Sandy about, the maximum level or amount of authority that this person would have. And like I said, this is my first time through this, but we had discussed a maximum of 5,000, and that would be, correct me if I'm wrong, not per change order. It would be, let's say there was 2 change orders in the 2-week span between meetings or whatever. So that would be a average total. So all change orders, if there were to be more than one, couldn't go over that total 5,000. So I'd make a motion, or just start there, I guess, to put a maximum of 5,000.
I talked to you as well. Again, I'm struggling with the whole change order deal as well. I think you were too. Even that coming into play, I can tell you that I've been in multi-million-dollar projects. And unless we're making the decision to change something or we forgot something in the plans, there's no change orders. So I don't have a problem with $5,000 either. That's not my point, and I don't see this as being something other than you wanting your facility to be done right, in my opinion. And I don't think it's going to meet, in my opinion, you checking in on a daily basis maybe, but some days not anything. But as far as the change orders, I'm struggling with that aspect of it. They had a dozen, they were going to share them with us, how many they had at that other one. I'd be interested to share that with Dan, and I'd like to see it as well, that he said he was going to get us these change orders, because it does not make sense to me, a dozen change orders. After you get it out of the ground, you've already got the bid process that's working for you.
So, any further discussion?
Do you have something you want to say?
I just said, the one thing that I have learned in talking to some different construction projects is that their key, they felt, to keeping the change orders and things at a minimum was in the job sites where the superintendent left, they didn't keep somebody there on a regular basis. That's when things kind of turned into the wild, wild west. But if somebody was there every day or almost every day, right, they kind of kept things plowing straight forward, and that really helped with that other stuff kind of coming up. So I know that's not exactly the topic, but I think ensuring that the construction, the general contractor, has somebody there on a daily or almost near daily basis is very key to making that successful.
Any other
Yeah, I think
comments on that?
that's a really good point, Dan. Great point. Lou, how will we get an indication or how can we discuss, giving construction companies or giving contractors ability to allocate superintendent time specifically to our project? How does the company think about that? I mean, is there a way we can get an assessment on that, Sandy? I know the hard bids, the bids are going to be what we're mainly going to get, but.
Right, you know what, I'll ask Saul Lang, I'll ask him what our bid documents require. Because I think we can dictate certain things, but we aren't going to be able to evaluate the different bids based on, you know, one contractor says they'll have them here this much and another one does that much. But we can, you know, put expectations, I think, in the bid. We might end up paying for it if they, you know, weren't planning on it. But I will absolutely ask Al that and get that back to you. I think that's a really good point. What's our expectation of oversight from the contractor?
And also, Al had mentioned that Solid Lang is a part of their engagement, is managing construction. I just want to try to clarify that a little more.
Yes, they
Or
are.
something, just a simple example of rebar not being placed correctly into concrete. Is that the type of thing that Solid Lang is engaged to protect us on?
No.
Or is it more general than that?
Yeah, I think it's more general than that. They would be on site through the project as the design professionals. So they're, you know, they would be there to answer the question of, hey, on the plans, it's showing X and maybe it's not clear what was expected there. And they would, you know, navigate with the contractor of what was expected on that plan set. I mean, this is where the details of the plan set become so important in public bidding, because they're going to bid what they think it was. I mean, that's the potential for change order. And I agree with Councilmember Fisher, every change order should be at our request. That's what I've always said, is that, you know,
Right.
we drive change orders. And it's, if there was an understanding that, like, we missed something in the plan, or the plan, once you get out there, you think the rebar's not enough, we would say we want it to be different. You know, maybe the mayor, we talked a little bit about construction inspection, which I think, Trevor, is what you're referencing. How do you make sure that what's happening on the site is what's supposed to be happening? And we have an inspector who would be a part of the project, but how does that work?
Well, our city inspector is qualified to inspect municipal buildings of that nature. So that would be the general route that it would be done. You can also hire inspection services to do that as well, but it is part of our insurance requirements and inspecting.
Again,
Can we pursue referrals, consider referrals as a part of the bid process?
I don't know.
And,
I don't know what that means. Say-
so for instance, we get, we would know a specific contractor and how many fire stations have they done in the area, and can we talk to the owner and ask how the process went?
No, you issue your award to the lowest responsible bidder. The only way you could do that is if you were able to say that they were not responsive or responsible. So responsive would be they didn't bid the documents right, like they only submitted part of it, or they left something out. That could be a non-responsive bid. Responsible is if you could show that they were somewhere, fired on the job, negligent. It's very, very difficult to do so. We assume that the bids that come in are from responsive bidders. We would certainly expect the design professionals to vet that before even opening the bids. But once you open the bids, you're assuming those contractors are responsible. Now, and Nick's here, he can probably answer a little bit about this, but once you have decided, this is the lowest bid, you're gonna take that. I mean, we get to talk to them, we can, see what they've done and stuff, but you don't get to change your mind. That's what public bidding is. You take the lowest bid.
Yeah, so on a recent project, I've requested references, but it was really for a comfort for the owners more than anything, because, we tried, but, we couldn't find any loopholes that said we could throw them out. They were the lowest responsive bidder, even though nobody had worked with them in the area, but that's besides the point. But I've had it in the past where we've gotten projects thrown out, but it was very much a cordial conversation with the low bidder, and says, are you really prepared to do this work? And they looked at it and they're like, you know what? No, we're not. We're going to pull our bid. But that's also a very difficult task to do. And especially with this kind of project, I don't know how you would do it. I mean, this was like a very specialized project that they just threw a number at. But
I mean, maybe in your case, like the references, you know, as soon as you know who the bidders are, we'll know what they've built. There's no secrets. This is all very public.
Yep.
But, you know, you could find out, did you have any trouble with this? Should we be looking out for something? You know, how we go about our relationship with that awarded bidder could change based on what we know about them. A very common question from council members is, have they done work for us before? Have they built other things like this for other regional areas? I mean, those are reasonable questions, but it's not then we don't want to answer.
Yeah, this topic's kind
Well,
of.
later, and maybe it informs, go ahead, Bruce.
Well, we've kind of swayed away from the topic of the person to ask as the owner's rep at this point. I think this good discussion on contracting and requirements there, possibly we could bring that up in another meeting. But I believe we need to stick to the agenda for this evening on, we do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the appointment of Dan Ramelsberg, Fire Chief, and a $5,000 limit? Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, we'll begin with the roll call vote then. David Fisher.
Aye.
Samantha Peterson.
Aye.
Trevor Dursky.
Aye.
EJ Bell.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Moving on to item 8 at this point. Privileged tonight to have presentations and discussion and possible action regarding proposals received from Executive Search Services for a city administrator. We have with us tonight MRG Gov HR Representative Mark Peterson, and later on we'll also hear from Express Employment Professionals, Graham Valdez and John Oswald. And Mark, we'll let you have the floor first. We appreciate your time.
And I apologize, it's MGT. I have an error on the agenda.
MGT.
That's okay, I know who you're.
I know.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll try to speak up so those that are online can hear. Delighted to be here this evening. Thank you for the invitation, and I speak for my competitors in the audience who I had a chance to chat with right before the meeting, and they're good guys. I drove over from Central Illinois, that's where I live this morning, and I got in, I mentioned this to the mayor when before the meeting. I got in about a half hour early, so I was able to poke around the community. What a delightful community you have, and I'm not just saying that. It is neat as a pin, and the properties are extremely well maintained. I know you all know that, but it's nice sometimes to hear the perspective of an outsider. It's really a beautiful community with a really wonderful range of housing options, and yeah, you're very lucky to be here. I'm sure the quality of life is high. I think Sandy shared with you this presentation. One of my pet peeves in life is when somebody gives you slides and they proceed to read them to you. I'm assuming you all can read, so I'm not going to bother to go through and read these slides. I am going to cover some of the topics, but this provides kind of an overview of the company that I work with, as well as overview of the process. But if you don't mind, I'm not going to just walk through the slide. I'm just going to kind of speak a bit extemporaneously and share a little bit of information about myself and the manner in which I would approach this particular recruitment if you were to ultimately engage us. But I do want to leave ample time for you to ask questions of me, because I'm sure you have lots of questions. This is a very important undertaking. Even though I live in Illinois, I'm an Iowan. I was born and raised in Iowa, lived in a number of communities throughout the state, went down the road here to the University of Iowa, got my undergrad degree and my graduate degree from Iowa, and then I kind of left the state, spent a few years in the Kansas City area working for a local government, municipal government there, and then ended up in central Illinois, where I spent the lion's share of my professional career. I was the city manager of Normal, Illinois for 20 years. Yes, I was the only Normal city manager in the country, so that's my claim to fame. But I retired in 2018 and joined, shortly after I retired, I joined the firm of GovHR. They now call themselves MGT. There's been a branding change. This firm works exclusively with public sector clients, primarily municipalities and counties. We provide a variety of services, consulting services, but probably our bread and butter is executive recruitment for municipalities and counties. I spend probably 80% of my time on executive recruitment, and since I joined the firm, I've done over 50. Lots of city administrators and city managers, department heads, heads of special public organizations. I'm working right now with a consortium of water systems in the Des Moines area in central Iowa, hiring an executive director. I'm also working right now, I just recruited a city administrator for Marshalltown. Also working on a community development director there. I'm also right now engaged with Urbandale in the Des Moines area on a city manager recruitment. So I've done quite a bit of work in Iowa, and obviously I have lots of contacts here, lots of people that I know are former colleagues. But again, recruitment is kind of our bread and butter, if you will, and I bring my expertise not only as a practitioner, as a local government manager for 35 years, but also as a recruiter. And I'm here basically to help you find what you're looking for. And I will, if we were to be engaged, I will certainly recommend a process, but I want to make it clear, this is your process, not mine. And I'm here to make recommendations, provide you with my expert advice. That's what you pay me for. But at the end of the day, you are driving the bus. So we're going to do what you want to do. As long as it's legal and it's ethical, that's what we'll do. If I feel you're kind of headed in a wrong direction, I think I'm obligated to tell you that. And I will. I'll be candid and share maybe if you're moving in a direction that I don't think is the best one. But again, I'm working for you and we will do what you want. One of the things we would do early on is sit down and I would ask you not only collectively, but probably meet with you individually and ask, what are you looking for in the next city administrator here? It's not unlike, I use the analogy when you go to buy a car. You walk on the car lot, the salesman usually comes up and says, what are you after? A pickup truck, a sports car, an SUV? It's not dissimilar to a city administrator. What kind of skills are you looking for? What kind of background and experience are you hoping to find? What sort of personal attributes are important to you? And then I need that information because I'm out there trying to find those people and encourage them to apply for the position. That's what we do. And then I'll continue to help you screen the applicants, particularly the final candidates, and hopefully you can find someone that you can all coalesce around and ask them to join your organization. If you don't, we stay with you. We don't go away. We are here till the end. And sometimes, not very often, we'll go through a process and we'll get to a group of finalists and I hear, I'm just really not excited about any of them. We can sometimes go back to the pool and see if there are other candidates, but sometimes we have to go back out again. And we stay till the bitter end. We all want to get this done. We all want to find the right person, but I will tell you quite candidly, you never want to settle. You want to find the person that you have confidence that can come in and do the job. And I'll do my best to try to find that person for you. So I'm going to stop there. That's because I really want to hear what questions you have and try to address your questions. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, Mark. We'll open the floor to the council for questions for Mark. At this time, anyone would like to start there? I guess I'll ask.
Okay.
Mark, you mentioned You would stay to the end. What is, in your terms, what is the end?
Till you hire somebody, till you make a hiring decision. And then, of course, we also provide a 1-year guarantee beyond that. In the event the individual doesn't work out for whatever reason, whether it's your choice or theirs, we will then, within 1 year, do a follow-up search and charge no professional fee. We do charge expenses like advertising expenses, which are fairly a small amount in the grand scheme, but there's no professional fee to go out and do the search again. So theoretically, if we have to, and I don't expect this to happen, I really believe that we will attract some quality candidates to this position. But if we're not able to, or if we can't find candidates that you feel comfortable with, we'll go back out again, and we'll try a different approach if we have to, until you feel like you've got the person and you make a hiring decision and they accept your offer. So the end is once you hire somebody, then it's over, then the clock starts ticking on the 1-year guarantee. I will tell you, I do large communities, I do small communities. I've got another community that's almost the exact same size as Atkins in Illinois right now, Farmer City. Not nearly as nice as Atkins, but and again, they're smaller communities have their own challenges in terms of finding people who are willing to come to these communities. Because I will tell you, I was the city manager in a city of 70,000 people. I know Sandy was in Cedar Rapids. We have engineers, we have accountants, we have attorneys, we have all these people. I've always said the administrators in communities like Atkins are the unsung heroes of the profession because they have to do it all. And it is a tough job. It's a hard gig. They don't necessarily have resources to go out and hire lots of consultants. They don't have lots of professional. I mean, they have good staff, but not a lot of them. And so they have to sort of figure it out on their own and do a lot of things that many city administrators in larger communities would simply delegate to staff. Well, there's only so much you can delegate. So in that respect, it is challenging to find good people, but there also are professionals who really like small communities. They like the personal touch. They like the direct involvement. So I feel confident that, even though there are some challenges, we can overcome those and find you some really good quality candidates.
Okay, anyone?
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Trevor.
Yes, my name is Trevor Gursky, council member calling in. This is going to be maybe a little more difficult question for you. This is a town that is just working through maybe a difficult 4 years here. The council's been divided. Numerous councils have been divided on numerous important matters. Can you speak to any experience you have sourcing a candidate for a similar situation and how that you might have to kind of tailor the approach differently?
Well, candidly, you've just described about 80% of the cities in the country. It is not unusual that cities have issues. It's not unusual that there's some division on the elected body. Those things aren't unusual. And I'm pretty transparent with candidates. I try to share with them up front, here's some of the challenges that you're going to deal with. But there's lots of good things here. We also want to emphasize all the great things about this organization. So people in this line of work particularly are used to these kinds of challenges. We're used to doing that. It kind of, it's kind of what we do. And so I'm not overly concerned about that. The only thing that I will tell you is I'm pretty transparent about it. And I want everybody who applies and particularly those who are asked to move forward in the selection process, I want them to know what they're getting into and what the challenges are and what the opportunities are as well. So again, that's pretty typical in many municipal environments these days.
It looks like project timeline in the proposal is about 14 weeks estimated.
Yeah.
Do you see any reason why it would be more or less than that?
No, that's, we can even sometimes move a little quicker, but, you know, there are, the biggest challenge I have is getting like schedules coordinated for interviews. It's important that once we're interviewing candidates, that all members of the council are present for that. This is as you know, a critically important decision. And so we run into vacations, or I've got a work commitment. And so that sometimes can push the schedule when we can't get people together. But, you know, we've done a lot of these. And that 14 weeks is kind of the sweet spot. Again, if you tell me we really want to move this along quicker, we could probably push it up maybe a couple of weeks. But I feel very confident about 14 weeks, as long as you all are on board and we can get schedules coordinated. When I send out materials for you to review, I need timely feedback. Like I'll send you the initial position announcement, which basically is a description of the position. It talks about, you know, the ideal candidate. Here's what we're looking for. Here's some of the challenges. I'll give you 4 or 5 days to review that and get back to me with your comments. The same with the recruitment brochure. That follows. That's kind of a nice slick marketing piece for the position. Again, it allows us to, it's a larger document, so we can put in more information about the community, the position, and the organization. Again, you'll get a chance to see that, review it, and approve it before we send it out. And I just need timely feedback on those kinds of things. We'll give you sufficient time. But if you take, if I don't hear from you for 2 or 3 weeks, then that pushes the calendar. So as long as you're all engaged and you're helping me with the schedule, I feel very confident that we can get it done in 14 weeks. Now, that's making a decision. Oftentimes, when you make a decision, you make an offer and it's accepted, the person who is selected is maybe gainfully employed. They're going to want to give their employer a reasonable amount of notice before they leave. So I usually say plan on, once you make an offer and it's accepted, plan on about 30 days before the new person is actually in the chair. That's pretty typical. A 30-day notice is typical. Sometimes an employer only will ask for 2 weeks, but 30 days is pretty standard.
Okay, thank you. One more here for you.
Sure.
You conducted the background screening, and I kind of see what you're screening for here in the proposal. One thing I want to confirm, do you do any sort of vetting for past municipal experience and kind of following up on why individuals may or may not be leaving their role? And more specifically, you can probably imagine what I'm getting at, right, is what's their past experience in dealing with councils.
Yeah, absolutely. That's critical. So, for example, let's say we have a candidate who was in the city for a year. Why a year? There's got to be some explanation for that. We start by asking them, what happened? Why were you there a year? But we don't just necessarily take their word for it. As part of our background check, we do extensive internet checking, and then we actually do, for the final candidates, we do a much more robust background screening. We actually hire a third-party firm. That's what they do. If there's something untoward out there, we'll find it. My pledge to you is no surprises. The last thing you need is, once you make an offer and find out something about this person that is disconcerting. We can't have that. If there may be something in their past that's a red flag or a question mark, maybe we can overlook it. Maybe it happened years ago. Maybe there's explanations. You're at least going to know about that before you make a decision. The last thing I want is somebody in the community coming up to you on the street and saying, hey, do you know your new city administrator got a DUI last year, was drunk driving in Iowa City? no. If that's the case, you're gonna know about it. And then you can decide whether they're still a viable candidate or not. Great question though, but absolutely, we do a deep dive on background. That's really critically important.
Okay, thanks, Mark. I'm good, everyone.
I've got a question about the phase one, the information gathering. I'd just like you to dig a little bit or
Okay.
a little deeper into that with the one-on-one group interviews and just kind of your process and figuring out what we as a council want. But then you also mentioned community forums, surveys, those types of things. I liked all of that because
Okay.
that's something that we've talked about as a council is we need to get on the same page. And it sounds like you
So-
have a plan to.
So those are things we discussed at the kickoff meeting. When we start, if you were to engage us, I'll come up here, we have a kickoff meeting. And that's with the city council, and we talk about just focusing on that first phase infrared. That's where I'm trying to understand what's going on in this community, trying to learn what you want, trying to learn what the issues are, because the more I understand the community, the better job I can do to find the right candidates, and also to share with candidates what's going on here. So stakeholder interviews are an important part of that. So in addition to a group meeting, I will want to meet with each one of you individually to talk about your specific desires and hopes and dreams for the new city administrator. I will also, I really like to involve the staff, particularly the senior staff that'll be working most closely with the administrator. I think it's important that they're involved and they have, I think, some valuable input to provide. And then if there are people in the community that you want me to specifically reach out to, the principal of the school or the head of the Chamber of Commerce, whoever that might be, I will reach out to them and get their thoughts. In addition to that, we can do some broader, we can do a community survey. There's various ways we can do that. Some of them are really fairly easy. Put them on the internet and they can respond to a survey or just send in their comments. And so those are the kinds of things that we do up front. And that's when we're trying to figure out what do we want here? What is it we want? And then that will all be reflected in the position announcement, because I'm going to list in there, these are the skills that are important. These are the personal attributes we want. Goes without saying we want honesty and integrity and, good communication skills. So I'm looking at kind of other things that go beyond what you would expect. You're not going to hire somebody who says, well, I check all the boxes, but I'm not honest. So, but that's part of that, kind of a fact-finding phase where we're trying to build a profile of the ideal candidate.
So you mentioned in here, I think all of that, 12 hours of meetings and so anything, including helping us if we decide to do a survey or any of that, as long as it's within that, like, general.
I don't,
amount of time.
I'm not clocking in and clocking
Sure,
out.
sure.
So if you ask me, we want you to interview 40 people, okay, at a half hour, we have to have a conversation about that. But ordinarily, if it goes a little longer, and again, a survey is pretty easy. I'd work with your staff to get something like that done. It depends on what type. I don't think it would be a terribly scientific survey, but an opportunity for people to voice their concerns and provide input. And that's what most people are looking for. I'm not a huge fan of the community forum. We can do that where you invite people into a room. Sometimes those can get out of control. If we do that kind of thing, it has to be very carefully orchestrated. The other thing that I will share with you that I feel is important is that we maintain the confidentiality of the applicants throughout the process. There are people that are gainfully employed, and I usually tell them, we cannot guarantee your name, but we're going to try to keep your names confidential. We're not going to put them on the website. Now, once candidates come to town and they're interviewing, I usually tell them, you better tell your spouse and you better tell your boss, because once you're in town, things tend to get out, even when we're exercising our best intentions. But I think confidentiality is important. I have had some municipal clients who like to have a community meeting with the candidates. I'm not a fan, I'll tell you that right now. If that's what you want to do, we can do that. I don't find it terribly valuable because they, shake hands with the candidates. Oh, I like that one. I like, you have a lot more information at your fingertips than they will have. And sometimes if you don't hire who they like, they say, well, they didn't listen to me. They didn't care what I thought. Well, no, it's because you have a lot more information and you all have a much different perspective than citizens. I did one recently, actually, in the Des Moines area. It's actually been a year ago. The council was insistent on a community forum. So we had 4 candidates, their spouses were there. This was the night before the interviews. Nobody showed up. There was nobody there. So they thought, oh, this is really, really important. I take that back. There were a handful of police officers and some firefighters that showed up, and it was fine, but people just didn't come out, and so they're not that helpful. With that being said, if you really want to do that, we'll make it work, but I don't recommend it.
Can I ask one more question? I don't know, we're probably getting along, but the 12 month or the 1 year guarantee, how, I think I really like that about your proposal, the length of time.
Right.
The 12 months, so how important is it to have that length of time as a
Well,
guarantee?
I mean, it's nice to have as a guarantee. It's not, we don't have to invoke that very often.
How many times have you had to?
Me, twice. Galesburg, Illinois, and Moline, Illinois.
And you hired how many people?
50. I think the firm says maybe 3% of the time. So it's nice to have, sometimes it's the candidate. Not one of mine, but one of my others, the candidate came and was there for 3 months, and his spouse said, I don't like it here. And he said, it's just not working out for my family. That happens. But usually it's there's just not a good fit. Pardon me?
Farmer City.
No, not Farmer City. No, not Farmer City. We haven't finished Farmer City yet.
Well, it's not.
We're in the process of Farmer City, but they've, in fact, the person that they're replacing has been there 7 years. So is taking another job in Farmer City, different position.
When you said it wasn't as nice a town, that's why.
Well, you have fabulous curb appeal, and this isn't quite the curb. It's an older community. It's nice, but you have pretty phenomenal curb appeal in this community, whether you know it or not. I'm a municipal geek, and I like going around communities, and I look at things that most people don't look at, and I'm telling you, this community shows well. I'm sure you have blemishes, but they're not apparent, and that's a good thing.
I was born in Illinois too, so I know
Okay.
what you're saying by curb appeal.
Yeah, you understand. This is, by the way, a beautiful building here. It's way better than Farmer Cities, but they have an old village hall that's very small. This is really nice. It's beautiful.
All right. I think we do need to move on.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Again, appreciate you having me.
With that, we'll hear a presentation by Express Employment Professionals, Graham Valdez and John Oswald. And John?
Hello, Graham. Just a little bit of more information about SRG, so overall for our clients, and then I put a copy of the agreement in there. I did make an addendum, a change from 90-day backfill guarantee, because I know that was a little bit of a concern on the short timeline, to 180-day, 6 month. I'll just be honest, we don't really do anything past 6 months, because it's not our responsibility to make sure our clients have a healthy environment, working culture. So usually we found if it's past the 6 month time period, we can start running into some serious issues. I mean, I can speak on anecdotally, but when you find out one of your former clients that you placed, or candidates that you placed, one of your clients may run into some pretty toxic culture issues 7 months in, that's not really on us. Longer guarantee, I mean, we could do a year, but are you guys gonna be happy if the person's gone after 15 months? No, I mean, we're right back to square one, but 180, 6 months where we top out at for the guarantee, so I'll just kind of get that out of the way right away. Additionally, I mean, we are express employment professionals. I am with the Specialized Recruiting Group Division, so we specialize in professional placements, $50,000 and above salaries. I know you guys want to do the agenda switch, but from 7 to 8, but I do know the express temporary staffing, that's from my peer, Haley, who had put in the proposal and agreement to Sandy. So the temporary office setting, that's separate from what we're doing. So we're a specialized recruiting group, so we deal with everything direct placement, professional placement roles. We do have the backing and support of a national brand with Express Employment Professionals Specialized Recruiting Group. There's about 168 offices throughout North America. But what is nice is we are all locally franchise owned. So we do have a gained investment in the overall well-being of the community, which is nice. I know John is just located in Cedar Rapids. The Express office in Cedar Rapids has been an approved vendor for the last 4 years for the city of Cedar Rapids. So they've worked with them on various roles. I'm located in our Des Moines office, so I got brought on back in March of this year, March 18th, to help grow the Des Moines market. I've been in the staff recruiting industry for 4 years, specifically staff recruiting for 4 years, but I've been dealing with hiring, recruiting, firing, all of that talent acquisition for the better part of 12 years, which is actually kind of crazy to think about in my head, but yeah, 12 years has gone fast. I mean, other than that, obviously we gave the proposals. I just wanted to open up to questions what you guys have. I mean, Mark covered a lot of it. I mean, it's a staff and recruiting industry. We just specialize in dealing with people. So at the end of the day, a lot of it is just job titles, but you're really just dealing with human beings. So what questions do you guys have for me about what we do?
I guess I'll start off things here. What kind of marketing approach do you have for beginning the search and putting the word out, so to speak?
Well, for this type of role, I mean, the type of candidate you're going to want to look for is most likely going to be someone we have to cold call approach. You're not really going to find this person that's just going to happen to be on Indeed and kind of out actively searching. It's someone that's probably going to be working in a role, open opportunities, looking for maybe an opportunity to move up, looking for something more responsibility, looking for something that they feel like is going to give them more satisfaction on their day-to-day, feel like they're contributing. So with that, we're going to use LinkedIn Recruiter. We'll use the active tactics on Indeed. We're going out and searching those candidates, maybe have their resumes on Indeed. A lot of it's going to be keyword searches. That's what's going to be important when it comes down to the meeting with the council and what you guys are looking for when it comes to those hard skills, so we know what to search for. The marketing, I mean, we market ourselves and dealing with us. So that's where our vetting process comes in, where they're meeting with the recruiting team, whether that's virtually or in person. And then we meet with me in person as well too for the next step of vetting. My vetting process is one, the hard skills, which I'm going to trust that my recruiters already got that checked off before they send them to me. The next would be the soft skills. Honestly, are they going to be a person you guys want to deal with on a day-to-day basis? I'm also looking for the red flags that they're not telling me. So I get a resume, I have somewhat of a story, I'm trying to fill in the blanks and figure out what they aren't telling me. A lot of recruiting and staffing, Mark can attest to this, is sniffing out maybe some of the red flags that are hidden. So that's a lot of what we go into when we are dealing with marketing. It's just marketing ourselves and that they're going to be dealing with us, that we actually do care about them and want to see them be successful. We don't want it to feel transactional. We do 30, 60, 90-day check-ins, which I do a year check-in too. So when I call back in a year, I'm hoping and expecting that person to still be in that role. But again, we just don't want them to feel like it was just another recruiting experience. The worst thing really that can happen in our industry is just someone feels like they're kind of just used and thrown to the wayside. Even if they get placed and they never hear from us again, that's not really a great feeling. We try to be as personal as we can be throughout the entire process. And that stems from going on site for interviews, first days. We just want them to make them feel like they have someone there helping them through the entire process. Because, let's be honest, no one really likes hunting for jobs or being on the job search. It's a vexing process at best, and nervous and somewhat scary process at the worst.
I got the same question I had for Mark for you. How frequently do you have to replace somebody that you placed at a job?
over the last, 4 years, or within the last year, or?
Basically, he's placed 50 people. Let's use the same 50 people that you've placed.
I would say probably 3 to 4 times, and usually that's if something's gone wrong. I will say it's happened within the last 3 months, and that's because we ran into an issue where it was just more reinforced of why we do things a certain way. The company was hiring a CEO at the same time as we were trying to hire on their director of human resources. And so the issue we ran into was the role that was explained to us, explained to our candidates during the interview and onboarding process was completely different from what the new CEO decided to do when they got brought in. And so that's happened within the last 3 to 4 months, pretty frustrating. So it doesn't happen often because every time it does, it honestly is a kick to the gut.
So you had to replace those people, and it was within that time frame, that your 3 month or 6 month?
Yeah, for them, it was another 6 month, 180 day, because they had a long ramp up period because of what they were doing, whole entire different culture change, everything. We decided to give them a 6 month, 180 day guarantee as well too, and it reinforced our fears and why we do things a certain way. And again, it's having your director of HR get brought on before you have your CEO get brought on, because once the new CEO came in, he completely changed what he wanted for the role. And so that wasn't what the person signed up for.
And I apologize, Mark. In that 3 people that you had to replace, or 2 people that you had to replace, what time frame was that under?
It was within a year. I think one was 7 months and one was 6 months.
All right, that makes sense.
Can you talk a little bit about the information gathering? Do you meet with us similar to what Mark was talking about as a group, individually, or how do you
Like
figure
information
out-
gathering for what you
Yeah,
guys
for
are
what
like?
we're looking for as a council, individually, our staff. I think that's a really important piece of the process. So is that something that you have as part of?
Yes, so yeah, we would want to schedule a call with everyone who's going to be involved in the decision-making process. One, to figure out what you guys are looking for, what challenges you've had with this role, why it's open in the first place, figure it out from there. Just again, tying into transparency, as Mark stated, transparency in our industry is paramount. Just because when we don't have it, like case in point, like I just said, our issue, we didn't have transparency with one of our clients before, and it leads to issues for everyone involved. So yes, we would want to meet with all of you to figure out exactly what you're looking for, what you need to feel comfortable with someone in the role to be successful. I'm not going to deal with any community meetings or anything like that, because frankly, it's whoever's going to be dealing with this person on a day-to-day basis is really the only opinions I care about. Because yeah, the more people you get involved, it starts getting pretty wonky. But yes, we want to do a sit down, meet with you guys, everyone's going to be involved in the process, and figure out exactly what you guys need and what you're going to feel comfortable with. Because that's the other thing too, is I'm big on figuring out the hard skills. Everyone says, oh, we want to go get her motivated. Well, yeah, no one's going to say they're lazy and not motivated on their resume or an interview. So I just need to know the specific skill set needed so we can search that, which is searchable. And then from there, that's when we do our end of the expertise, those soft skills and everything. They're going to be a good fit.
You've placed city administrators before?
Me specifically, no.
No, well, your firm.
John, who we all placed with City of Cedar Rapids?
We have not done any city administrators, just to be upfront with you. We're, we've done a lot of industrial clients. One of the things we kind of specialize in is bringing people back to the small town. So we are connected to 180 different express or SRG offices across the country. So we reach out to that network, and what I'm looking for are people that have born and raised here, gone to school here, had to get away. They went to the coast. They've been there for 5, 6, 7 years, started to raise their family, looking to come back to the Midwest to be closer to family. Those are the kind of people that we have really been able to tune into, and they're coming back for a reason. They want to be back into the Midwest, close to family, and they stick around and stay. So that's been pretty successful for us. We will use that network of offices to cast a wide net just to see what might be out there from that aspect too. We're local, so we do know a lot of people in the local communities. The Cedar Rapids, Iowa City metro area is our background, is our stomping ground. So we will use a lot of referrals, a lot of connections that we have. Things that aren't probably typical from a recruiting standpoint. We'll do the things that Graham mentioned, but we'll also get that word of mouth out there, like to the people that we know, and my wife and I know, my family knows, and see what we can drum up from that standpoint too. To his point, it is a great community. It's an easy sell for me. Living here, living in the Midwest, it has a lot to offer. And I think people that know that, right? And those are the ones that we're kind of looking for, that are well aware of what the community is. And to Graham's point, it's just trying to hone in on their skill set. And, can they do the job? Are they capable of doing the job? Will they meet your requirements? And the experience that they have. So.
How long does your process take, or what, do you have kind of a timeline?
It varies for us. Our goal is in 1 week to get someone submitted from start of search to in front of you, presenting to you for review 1 week. From there, it all depends on the interview process, the meetings. I mean, that's the timeline's going to be dependent upon you guys. So I know on our end, our goal is 1 week to get candidates in front of you for submittal process, and then from there, it's how quickly you guys will move when it comes to interviewing those candidates and then eventually making an offer.
So you're taking the skill set that we give you, you're identifying that individual, and you're putting them in front of us. Have you done any screening of that individual at all?
Yeah, before we put them in front of you, it's our screening. So yeah, they're going to meet with our recruiter to make sure they have the hard skill sets needed, and they're going to meet with me in person. So I'll drive here, meet with them in person. I doubt we'll find someone outside of Iowa that we need to do virtual if need be. We at least want to get eyes on them.
Let me rephrase my question, sorry. That's a good deal, but my question was more, do you do background checks?
Typically, I mean, we can do a background check. We normally will charge our clients if we're going to do a background check, but we will search Iowa courts. We have means that's free, and then if we want to do an extensive one, we can do an extensive background check, but typically there's a fee for that, just the cost of the background check.
I will have to say that we'll do that within the letter of the law. It's pretty specific as to what one can do for background checks.
Oh, understood. I'm not asking you to do anything that would be wrong, okay?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's doing the same thing either, are you, Mark?
We do extensive background checks, but
Right.
we get approval from the applicant in advance, and it's clearly within the law.
You're doing the same thing, right?
That's the key. I mean, in the end, they're not our employee, they're your employee. So without special permission, I can't do a background check on somebody because they're not my employee. But we can make the arrangements to have that done. And to your point, we use third-party services to do those background checks. Both local and national, yeah.
I just give the case in Bush Light.
What I would advise you to do is make sure that you guys know what you'll accept, okay? And we can help guide you on that.
Okay.
So,
For example, like Mark said, a DUI from 6 months ago is a lot different than 8 years ago type of situation.
Right.
A week seems like really quick to me.
That's just submittal. I mean, that's just us to get, and that's our goal, to get a candidate in front of you, submittal process. But again, that's to get them in front of you, now to schedule the interviews and all that. I mean, that stuff is all going to take time. So it's not like we're going to identify a candidate and have an offer in 1 week. So don't think it's going to be that quick. Our timeline we gave is just simply just to get candidates in front of you to start saying yay or nay. We want to.
Because you've already got candidates in your system, is that what you're trying to tell me? That you already got people that are out there looking?
Not necessarily. I mean, we have candidates pipelined, but our recruiters are pretty good at navigating the systems and starting to search from scratch. My timeline based on 7 business days was if we had to start from scratch, no pipeline, assuming there's no one in the pipeline. Now, they may have someone in the pipeline, which obviously would speed up the process. But I gave my timetable based on the fact that if they had no one, what their search parameters would be. So 3 to 4 days of calling, smiling, dialing, get a hold of someone.
So we don't have a job description.
Hmm.
So that's after they decided hard skills through a job description.
That would be after we meet, go over what you guys are looking for, all of that, and then once we get the green light, okay, we're gonna start searching, that's when it would start.
You would help with the job description?
Mhm. Yeah.
Is there ever a point where, like, if we're unsuccessful, if we take too long, are you ever, you know, like Mark said, I'm here till the end, is there ever a cutoff where you're?
Yeah, for us there is, because we've had clients get unrealistic, you know, if
Sure.
someone's wanting 15 to 20 years experience, but only wanting to pay them 60 grand a year, then that's unrealistic. If they're not willing to budge on it, we'll exhaust our resources to that amount. If we can't find anyone, they're not willing to budge on any criteria or whatever it is, then, you know, it is what it is. Because we don't charge a fee as we're searching. We don't charge any expenses for our searches whatsoever. So everything is done by us on the front end. The only fees we charge is if we get someone placed. So at the end of the day, as long as the experience and expectations of what you want out of someone out of the role based on the budget you guys have set aside, which I believe it's 100,000 for this role is the budget. As long as all those are realistic and make sense, I mean, we're gonna give it a go as long as we possibly can within reason. But I don't really start with us doing anything expecting not to, you know, be successful on it. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna lie and say, no, we haven't, you know, told clients, hey, we've exhausted our resources on this. But again, those are rare instances where they're being unrealistic with either the pay, the amount of pay and the experience or skills needed.
Open the floor up to Trevor or EJ if you have any questions. Think about
I
it.
just want to clarify on the vetting. With the situation that I described previously, is that something that your process would be able to detect? Essentially, a city administrator, city clerk, individual who has kind of a history of maybe not dealing with, you know, various city councils as well, or a history of getting bounced out of city councils for, you know, for cause, for a good reason.
I mean, with that, that's gonna go based on our vetting process. Yeah, when we're interviewing, we're talking to them and I'm looking at a resume, why did you leave here? Why did this happen here? When you have individuals that have been asked to leave or leave on a negative experience, it's typically, from my experience, a reoccurring theme or issue. And if you met with them enough, you can start sussing that out. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's an art and a science to staffing and recruiting. You deal with enough people, you start hearing the same things, hearing the same answers, excuses, whatever, what have you. But again, that's why it's so important for our recruiters to meet with them virtually and then myself to meet with them in person, is to try and figure out exactly why did you leave this place? What happened here? To the best of our ability. And then again, that's where you guys would follow up on your end when it came to that meeting with you, is the answers they gave me on this and this situation. Because we're going to preempt you guys too, and anyone that we submit, we're going to give a synopsis and an explanation of, you know, why they're leaving, what they're looking for, why they're wanting to be in this role. And if their answers aren't matching up by the time they get to you, then obviously that's another red flag. But that is, you know, part of our process is figuring out exactly, you know, why they're in the search or why they're open to this opportunity. If that answers your question.
I can add to that a little bit. Well, obviously, we start with the references that they provide. You know, that's the initial easy thing to do. But then we'll also dig in a little bit further and figure out who else that we may be able to call that they didn't list as their reference, because, you know, most time they're not going to put a reference down that's not going to give them a good reference, right? So we do a little bit of digging in that. We try to find other people that are associated with them. And that's where we really get the good information at, as to maybe what really happened, right? Or why somebody is leaving a position. So that's been pretty helpful in the past. You can uncover a few things just by, you know, making a few phone calls. So.
Yeah, just to confirm, I want to make sure I heard it right. So you don't have specific experience for sourcing city clerks or city administrators, or this would be kind of
correct, yep.
Yep, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay, and then how do you handle the logistics of the interview process? Is that on us to manage that schedule and coordinate with the candidates, or will you guide us through that process?
We would guide you through it. We would be the ones coordinating with them, figuring out times that work for everyone, times that work for them, and then getting that coordinated and situated.
That typically, we'll help them with lodging, figuring out how to get to and from. It's all part of what we do to help get that individual here and in front of you. We do also do facilitated interviews, if that's something that you'd like us to do. Sometimes we find a lot of companies aren't that great at interviewing people, so, we'll sit in on those interviews with them and kind of guide them and put a few questions out there for them to kind of get things going. But we refer to that as our facilitated interview. That is an option. We're more than happy to do that.
Would that be another option at an added cost, or is that included in?
Because again, our goal is to get the person placed in here long-term, so we figure that goes into the fee that we would be paid getting them placed, so.
And did I hear correct too, that you, for the special recruiting group here, you work out of Des Moines?
Well, yeah, we have our express office, and John are located here in Cedar Rapids, and myself, I'm in Des Moines.
Our headquarters is in Cedar Rapids. I just happen to own another express office in Des Moines, and with Des Moines being the size of city it is, we're just trying to focus and grow our territory a little bit that way. But predominantly Cedar Rapids is where we're at. So.
Okay.
I know you mentioned that you had sourced positions, not in municipal, but in other areas of industry. Have you had experience with small communities like, say, 2,000, 2,500?
Yeah, I can remember we placed a $280,000 executive in Grinnell. We pulled him from a current his current employer. A lot of back and forth, right? Because they didn't want to lose that caliber of person. So there was some counter offers, and so we helped negotiate that whole process. But in the end, the guy was looking for a small town location for his family. That's what drove him to Grinnell. So.
Right now, we have a client that we're helping them at their Carroll facility, sourcing HR generalists there. So we do have experience. I mean, that's one of the benefits of being locally owned is we have a lot more idea of the geography and kind of what people are, Atkins and that far away from Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. So we've definitely had more challenging smaller towns to try and fill positions for.
Definitely more small towns in Iowa than big towns, right? So, they do tend to be a little bit tough, but depending on where they're located at and what obviously you guys are, sitting pretty good. You're right next to Cedar Rapids, so it's not a hard sell for anybody at all.
I got a final question here for you. Appreciate you guys coming out. And with the pipeline you mentioned, maybe an interesting point of distinction here is that is your process going to be a cohort-based sort of hiring search, or is it possible we'll get candidates 1, 2 at a time and kind of they'll come in a stream? How should we think about, how the candidates will be presented to us over, the next month or so, or however long into the engagement?
That can be on your preference. I can do onesie, twosies as they come along, or I can wait until I have several individuals and present them all at one time. It's up to you guys on what you prefer. For the sake of speed, if you guys want this, fill as quickly as possible as they come along, then I'll submit them and fire them off your guys' way for review. But again, if you think it's going to be easier to review several candidates at one time and then go from there, we can do that as well too. But that's going to be, again, your preference, how you guys want to go through the review process, and we can discuss that during the meeting when we're going over criteria, what you guys need, and hashing out the skill set and experience needed.
because we're not just searching for people that are looking for work, we're searching for people that are already working. So the urgency is not necessarily there on their part, right? So you got a little bit of time where we could put 3 candidates in front of you. They're fine, you know, they're happily employed. They're just looking for that next step, that next jump, the next promotion, or you know, maybe it's just the fact that they don't like the school district they're in, right? And they want to get someplace closer to what it was when they grew up. And so the people that we're looking at probably are not going to be like, hey, you got to make a decision or this guy's going to be gone. These people are going to be employed, so you got a little bit of time, you got a little bit of breathing time to do a good vetting of them and interviews. So typically we could do 2 or 3 at a time, so you got something to kind of compare against and choose from. You don't have to take those. We toss those aside and go for another set too. So locally, we do.
Understood, thank you.
Yeah. Locally, we do a lot of high-level placements at, you know, a lot of the companies around here, Red Star, you know.
Collective data, EDC.
Yeah, we work very closely with Kurt Nelson at the EDC, who's pretty well connected in the community, and he's very good at helping us vet people to go to some of these little more entrepreneurial startups that are kind of looking for their first level of talent as well. So we got some good connections there. But we've done a number of those places, you know.
And where it's vital that we get it right, just because they are smaller, so they can't really afford to kind of have a whoops or a bad hire. Yeah, I come from previously working with pretty large clients in Wells Fargo. Yeah, they're okay with some bad hires, where we have clients now where we can't really afford to have a bad hire, so we have to be pretty locked in with our vetting process to make sure it's a good fit.
Okay, I think, appreciate your time. And, to both Mark and to,
Thank you.
okay. Oh, Brandon, John, thank you as well. Our item for this evening, number 8, which is really 7, but number 8 does include possible action, if so council so desire. And Sandy, do you have any additional items to add to that?
No, my, just some logistics. What I would expect is that if the council's interested in making a choice in your discussion, you would just direct me to get an agreement from them and put it on the next council agenda for your approval. You could certainly, make a motion to hire a firm, and then you'd still have to do that formal action to enter into the agreement, but I would see that as
Let's talk here.
If you guys decide to hire one of those 2 firms, just let me know, and then we'll have it on
Oh,
the agenda
okay,
next
okay.
time, sorry.
I thought we were talking about the next
No, we're still
portion,
on
which is,
the express, no, or the temporary staffing. No, I can
I thought that's what you were
No,
doing.
we're still in number 8, which is discussion of possible action as far as the item
Oh,
was mentioned. So that's what.
Mr. Mayor, if it would be helpful for us to leave so you can speak with us. It might be uncomfortable. I'm happy to, unless you have additional questions, I don't want to sit here and cramp your style, so to speak. If you want to talk about us behind our back, that's fine. Just that, I'm not the same.
I'm not concerned about talking. Anything that I have is right there on that camera, and you guys can come
Well,
look at it
that's
anyway.
true, yeah.
So I
Okay.
guess what I'm trying to tell you, I don't care what you have to say, or what I have to say. I didn't expect to make any determination tonight with I didn't at least, maybe everybody else did, with making a decision who we were gonna go with. And the reason I wanted to switch it, because I thought you guys were gonna present something else, or with the next item on the agenda, and that's why I submitted it that way, or I wanted to do it that way, because I wanted to hear your presentation first.
No, that's for me. The next one's mine. Like Graham said, it's actually a different part of their company. So it's really mine.
We have two sides. One does all the temporary contracts, skilled trade production roles, that's the Express, and then the SRG does all the direct placement, permanent placements. That's why it's a little confusing. It's all under the Express umbrella, but there's two different divisions that handle the two different types of employment.
This would just be an opportunity for council to formally direct staff to take further action, or we can let it go and have a discussion at a later date.
I think we should have a discussion later date just to make sure we're all on the same page, but that's just my opinion.
I think it gives us some
Do we
time
have-
to absorb everything and determine what we want to do. That's just me, but I didn't expect to make a judgment tonight, but I always see that in there as part of the thing, as potential
Yeah.
action to be doing. That's the reason we put that in there for people that don't understand, is that way if you do want to make that judgment, you can make it that day, but it's not necessary that you do it that way.
I believe someone on the line was asking a question or statement.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, there's nothing scheduled right between now and the next council meeting on the 10th. I mean, we have the tour on the 5th, but I would assume it's probably not appropriate to try to do that sort of business at the beginning of the tour. I'm just trying to think. I'm okay if other members on the council would prefer to have some time to digest and maybe consult, do their own research. I just want to get, I've made it a priority for me, for a while now, how important I think this staffing situation is. And so,
Well, I think it's
I mean, we
important
can
to
explore that, just kind of. Yeah, right. Well, no, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that others don't. I'd like to maybe, if we can get a commitment to make a decision then on the 10th.
Can we do that? That was my concern too, is because if on the 10th, all we do is direct you to then get the contract, and then we have to wait until the 24th to approve it, my question is, are we able to make a decision and sign a contract on the 10th? So we're not pushing this out a month?
Yeah, just to make sure that we are, kind of following the open meetings law, the public should see you deliberate on who to choose. We certainly could put a resolution on with the option of these two, because, so that you, just like tonight, you could have made, yeah, and I think we can probably
We
figure
could
out.
all meet here on the 5th when we're going to do the tour, and we could open it up at that point in time for a 10-minute meeting to discuss it or whatever, and make that decision then.
I was gonna say, I agree that we shouldn't do it like standing at the water plant or something, but if you wanted to meet here first for 20 minutes, short meeting with that one topic, I think that would be okay, and then go on the tour.
I think it makes sense.
And then that would then put it on the
I can do that.
agenda.
And then approve?
I can do that.
I'd be okay with that as well. I think that's a good idea.
We're still at that 4:30 time.
Okay, so we have a motion to
And I hope that I can
get the direction.
get a couple minutes of each of you guys' time after this meeting tonight today too.
So Sandy, do you have enough direction
I do.
there to do? Okay.
Thank you.
Correct. So then the 5th. Again, thank you folks for coming. Appreciate your time, and it's been good discussion. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Moving on to item number 7, resolution approving agreement with Express Employment for flexible temporary office staffing. And this is a different topic than
Yeah, sorry for
Executive search.
confusion. I thought I'd bring up my cover sheet that I shared with you guys. So this is my request from the office to hire an hourly person that's that could be hired through a temporary service, so not an employee, a temporary contract, hourly frontline worker. What I would like to have them do is come in and work on council communication documents, so I need council resolutions, council minutes, get them published per the law. I need to get the resolutions from those minutes found, signed, and in a searchable method to find them. It's something that I know I've talked about a few times. I always thought maybe it would just over time we could get caught up. We can't. You need somebody sitting there all day finding these documents and getting them signed. This is part of the legal requirement of cities to have these documents, including indexing, which is a term that I think is old, a searchable way. Right now, I was asked, send me the most current procurement policy for the city. Well, I could find one that was old. I knew from talk that there was a newer one, but until I was able to contact the mayor and Jared stopped by and I said, when did the procurement policy get changed? Well, I think it was the fall of 22. So then I could go into minutes and look in those minutes and try to find out when it was on an agenda and was able to track down the resolution. Let me just tell you you can't bring in an administrator and have that be the way we retrieve documents. So my plan is to bring someone in, set them up with all the documents that we can find, trace them back, and get them all indexed so that they're searchable. These are things that the auditors come in and ask for. Show me this policy, show me that policy. I struggled with 2023 audit that we just did because I went back to contractors and said, I need a copy of the contract we had. So to me, it's become urgent. I'm not gonna be able to do it. You don't want to pay me to do it. So my suggestion, and Express was working with me, so I asked them, all the firms are pretty similar in the sense that they're gonna find somebody that can come over and work so many hours a week for a short period of time. This is like days and weeks, not months, just to fill in the gaps, fill in this gap between trying to staff up. But honestly, I'm gonna tell you, until these documents are searchable and findable, it really is hard to find staff to come in and say, hey, you need to follow these policies if I couldn't even find a policy. So that's my plea for just some short-term assistance.
So I had a different vision, and I shared that with you when you first started here. Putting those into a search mechanism type of a database type deal.
Right, and I mentioned to you that, in the budget, and then I think I've mentioned in the communication, the shorthand is Laserfish, it's the most common, but we also have a searchable document management system, if you remember I talked about that. I think absolutely, and I kind of mentioned to you that, to the council, we need that. We need that document management system. This is the precursor to that. So when we interviewed Laserfish and another company, that I can't remember the name of, I apologize. But anyway, we interviewed them to see their product, and it's that you have to have these documents retrievable to even put them, to scan them, and the documents aren't scannable. I don't even know where they're at right now. So you and I are totally in agreement that this needs to be a more robust system than what I'm talking about. But this is step one to having these required documents accessible. Second would be putting in a system like this, like what you're talking about. Third is all the indexing that goes into what I realized once I interviewed those firms, just a little bit in the demo, the easy stuff, was that we don't have the staff to to be able to even put together a document management system now. I wish we did. I wish we could jump to that. The other thing that this is a precursor to is the codification of the city code. I've mentioned to you that we have a 2005 code that is scarily out of date. You should be doing it every year. And I mean, we're almost 20 years out of codification. So when you look at our city code online, every ordinance that's been passed since 2005 is not included in that code. And you tried to hire twice, according to the records I'm seeing, you tried to hire twice a codification company, and both times you stopped because you cannot find the documents that need to go in there and they're not in proper form. So this is step one of probably several steps. But if you don't start with one, you're never going to get to where you need to be, and it's just getting harder. I've been here almost 6 months, and it's just not getting easier. I know where some stuff is now, but I literally have to ask people when things happen to find it. I still struggle to find out when ordinances have been passed that change the law. And, I'm looking in books that I think people think they've cut up. But I think I mentioned to you in council communication that I think zoning and things that I wanted to mention haven't been changed, but somebody could come in and say, hey, the council actually passed an ordinance in 2015 that said X, Y, Z, and then I would go try to find that ordinance to show that the council had acted. But until the council documents are put where they need to be, I don't know the actions of the council. You know how I'm kind of a stickler for, it's what you say, it's what's on print that matters. And so does that make sense to you? I mean,
this is where I'm struggling in my brain with this is if you can't find them, how are we going to train somebody that's a temp employee to find them?
Well, because it's I have to believe that they're somewhere. We have online documents, we have minutes that should show what the council has done. I think we can find all of those minutes. They're in people's email. Some are in books, some are in draft, and then somebody needs to go through the minutes and find all the resolutions that are in those minutes, and then track down the resolutions that I have to believe are somewhere in people's emails, in our shared drives, that there are thousands and thousands of documents in thousands of folders on our shared drive. I have to believe that they're there. When I have to find something, and I've had to several times, many times since I've been here, I can eventually track them down. I don't know that there's anything that I haven't actually been able to eventually put my hands on, but you don't want it, very inefficient. So what I finally have decided is that we have got, this is a baseline thing that we've got to do in order to make it a little simpler for somebody to walk in and say, what has happened in the past?
I'm not saying that.
But I would echo Sandy's concern, because we're transitioning from a paper-based system in a lot of cases to electronic. And sometimes our electronic versions are not the official, they're not certified, where the signed, certified, stamped items have not been scanned. And so you can't use the scanned ones for an official letter to a resident or something like that, because we do search for historical documents like an easement or a plat or something like that. So
I have a lot of unsigned copies.
So typically, I guess where I'm going with this is, your temporary employees, do you give them full authority in an email system? And I just find that really.
I mean, these are me, frontline employees. We will supervise them if that's what your concern is. But otherwise, I don't know how to solve the problem, Councilmember. I don't know how to. If you have a better solution for getting the documents where they need to be, open ears.
So I would encourage council to approve Sandy's asking for. It seems reasonable to me. We do have paper documents, especially in Boulder by projects, by subdivision developments, things like that, that need to tie together. The people that did those projects, it was familiar to them, but as history goes on, that knowledge walked out the door, so to speak, and it goes back quite a ways. So I'm just saying that it's time to bring the city up to the 20th century, so to speak, and move on with that. Get it started, get the baseline moving.
We've had clients that have had temporary workers approving loans. So, I mean, these sound like these are all public records and different things. So, I mean, we've got clients that have much more sensitive information than our temporary employees.
If they're searching in personal emails, that's concerning to me.
Our email's not personal. Also, I mean, to be fair, all of our emails are open. They're on the employers too. So I would say that anything on City of Atkins is searchable. And I mean,
We have I just submitted another proposal for the city of Cedar Rapids, but we've staffed them for the last 4 years. I've got 7 employees there now that have been there almost a year. And, they're taking care of everything, like in the water department, all different aspects of the city, the forestry department, but.
which I have to admit, I didn't know that. I will, just so that you don't think there's a conflict. I didn't realize you were doing work for the city of Cedar Rapids. I retired there before that. I knew we used some temps sometimes, but that's not why I went.
And, we've done large and small projects, exactly what you're doing. A lot of people are scanning in old documents. We work for the University of Iowa Hospitals. They have like a 35,000 square foot warehouse down in Iowa City. It was full of medical records. Dates back into the 30s. And, those all had to be scanned, classified, put into a system. Now, granted, they had a system that was organized and they're doing the labor, but what you're talking about is
It's a little.
yeah, you can find those resources to help with that. They need guidance and direction, obviously, but.
And the good news is we are a small city. It's a lot of years, but not a ton of documents. I mean, at the end of the day, I was trying to get a handle on how much, and we're not the city of Cedar Rapids. We don't have thousands of documents. I might be, naive, but I really feel like it's not a ton of time. It's just that you need dedicated time. You need somebody that comes in and that's all they're doing. And right now I'm trying to do it, as I find things, and I just cannot get ahead of it, and we don't have enough time, of hours available to just do it as a fill-in. I think that, and just to be fair, when hopefully we go to a document management system, which I highly recommend, you will probably want to do the same thing, more to what John's saying, where you bring in a temp and you're scanning all of these documents, applying keywords, and getting them into your new document management system. You're not going to want to do that with your current staff because you won't have time to do it. And it's one thing to keep up with a system; it's a whole nother thing to do backlogs. And once you have that stuff in an electronic system, it's fantastic. But getting it there is hard. It's road work that needs done.
So can I try to summarize a little bit what the minute or what the scope is? It sounds like there's certified or legally enforceable documents that are on hard copy. So they're not digital, so they're not able to be scanned. And we have digital documents that are not like certified, legally enforceable, whatever the term is. And so it sounds like there's 2 efforts. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah.
The digital documents are going to need to be made certified, but then once they're made certified, that'll be hard copy likely, unless we have a DocuSign or something, else going on. And then all those hard copy certified, going back, as you mentioned, to 2015, let's just say 10 years, need to be scanned. And so once they're all PDF and scanned, they should be searchable at that point, right? You mentioned tagging documents.
Yeah, and I don't have a system.
We're
that
talking
can
about
allow-
just finding them right now.
Yeah,
That's
I'd
what we
say-
originally were saying.
It's not.
Wait, how far back are we talking? Like, we talking about like
I don't,
10, 15, 20 years?
No,
Like, or back as humanly possible?
no, what I would do is I would start current and go backwards. And then hopefully, my hope, Councilmember Bell, is that you hit at some point and every, when I look at the minutes, all resolutions are there. I think it's a few years.
Well, for example, I look in the banking world, I mean, I do every day. Most documents are 7 years, there's some things that are 10, but most things are 7 years, you're done. But
So-
obviously with the cities, that's
Yeah,
obviously
it's not true.
different.
No, it isn't. Yeah, in cities, it's perpetual for minutes and resolutions. Payroll records
Okay.
are required
So-
for perpetual.
So, okay.
You've adopted, I mean, the one thing I have found is that the city of Athens has adopted the municipal league's records retention policy. We're not following it at all, I will tell you. So that would be my goal. I have that policy on my desk. And we would try to match that to ensure that we are retaining those records we should be and not retaining the ones that we aren't, that we don't need to. This is step one. I do not think that we're getting grandiose here. I'm telling you that we need to do this in order to have a modicum of following the law that requires the council actions to be logged, to be collected. I don't mean to sound as critical as I am, but I think I've been a broken record since I've been here, that your record keeping is not in the place where it needs to be, and this is step one. This is way before anything about keyword searching or to Councilmember Fisher, this is finding everything and making sure
That's what
that I
I'm
even
hearing.
have the documents I need. Yeah, I can't find them now.
I thought they were
Well,
all.
fair enough, fair enough. I mean,
File or something.
It also says scan the log.
Actually, absolutely.
The cover sheet says scan log and made searchable. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Sandy. You're trying to articulate that this is baseline, and I agree with you. I don't want to, while you're articulating that, make it sound like it's not significant as well, and not like an important step. I mean, I think this is a transparency issue. And so that's why I'm inclined to support this and more, a document management system. If you go to I encourage folks to go to other city websites. And, if I wanted to go find every document on a certain keyword, I could do that. Or other city websites, and unless it's prohibitively expensive to get there, I think that's a good standard for us to try to strive for.
Yeah, this is just to find them. This isn't to get that going, Trevor. This is just to find them.
Right, and prepare them for what we might go to in the future, which would be another system and a vendor and all that. And so I think it's, first base sort of move. And it's like, how do we get it done? If we all agree it does need to get done, and I put it under a transparency issue. Obviously we don't want to be, like, what's the most efficient way to get there? Yes. And we either got Sandy and her rate, we got a temp, or we have full time. And I think for this sort of work, the temp is more efficient.
You need a motion to,
Right, a motion to approve the resolution.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand what we were going to hire an individual for the city, and where are we at with that process?
The utility billing.
Yeah.
I'm still interviewing. I'm still going through a search.
Okay. And that individual, we had no intentions of them doing any working on stuff like this.
I think they would. I would, this literally, I would keep thinking, if I could fill that position, I would have that person start doing this. I'm not, having a ton of luck to fill that, and so I keep thinking every week that goes by, we're getting behind, and we're not getting ready for.
How many applicants, sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah, I was.
How many applicants have we had?
We can talk. I,
Yeah, we do need
not
to
very.
stay on topic for the.
I would, I'm happy to share.
How quickly would the temp be able to start?
My impression is, you know, I can, you know, they'll give me candidates right away. Is this, I mean, again, we're talking about a frontline, you know, person that doesn't, they told me a couple of days and they can be on the job.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution approving agreement with Express Employment Professionals for flexible temporary stay.
I'll second, and I just think that's a good distinction there, a good question, from Dave, that in the event that Sandy does place the full-time building clerk, which would be basically the second full-time staff, not a leadership, as I understand kind of the structure, that this is the sort of work they would be doing.
Correct.
And I think that's a good clarification.
So basically, once you get someone hired, we can review this and just get rid of this if we need to, basically.
That was my intent, yes.
Okay. And the same thing that goes, what you were mentioning, Dave, if you could reach out to me, saying, hey, let me know what that process of
I'll let the
where
council.
we're at on that clerk.
You bet.
Yep. Yeah, that would be good. Thank you. I was a little surprised.
Okay, so motion and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. David Fisher,
Aye.
Samantha Peterson,
Aye.
Trevor Dursky,
Aye.
EJ Bell,
Aye.
motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving on to mayor's report. Sad to report that we did have an accident with a city employee, and all the forms are being filed and everything on the commensurate with that type of an injury. And so we're hoping for a quick and complete recovery. Looks like it's on the way. And we're moving ahead with that.
What happened?
We can give you a report later. I think it was in the email I sent you too.
It was not in the email. It just said an incident.
Okay, well, we can give you a report once we've been working with insurance and OSHA and all those sorts of things to make sure we're staying on top of all the.
But he's gonna be okay?
Yes, he's recovering, and we're hoping for a complete recovery. Then I also attended landfill commission meetings and the Trails Commission meetings, but have been heavily involved with the first subject mentioned there, so hate to see that, and hoping for a good outcome. Turn over to Sandy for administrator's report.
Sure. From mine, I think it's things I shared with the council already, but just a reminder, on the 5th of September, we've scheduled your tour. If I gave you the list of facilities that we'll be touring that afternoon. Little adjustment, we'll start here at 4:30 and then move on to those locations. And if we need more time, we can always schedule a second one, so to fill those in. And I heard you, I think it's a great idea. I think I'll schedule right away the projects tour as well. I know I've looked at some of the projects in person and it's very valuable, so I will do that as well. I sent to council on Friday the tree removal list. I know there's interest in the public about the dead trees that we have, between a little bit of residual derecho damage, trees that haven't made it. But mostly the emerald ash borer has, as expected, as predicted, the trees are dying from the EAD. So there's a list of, we identified 52 trees, I think. Half of those are on right-of-way adjacent to private property, on streets, escapes. Half of those are in forested areas that the city owned, on city-owned land. I sent those to the council to look at so that you could look at them. I know people talk to you guys about this tree that's in front of my house is dead, So make sure you're looking at it. Send me a note if you see something that you think we're missing something. There are a number of trees that are dead in the city that are on private property, so it's not going to solve everyone's concerns, I'm sure, but it certainly will take care of what is city-owned. We're working with Nick to put together a bid package. That'll be a bid quoted, depending on what we think, but a bidded project as well, and hoping that we can get them down this fall, early winter. So I know that the public is very interested in getting that done. And then finally, I know you're all aware that we have some economic development proposals coming in front of the city. Very exciting stuff. We have on a couple of different fronts that I'll be sharing with you. I did put up on our city website in the vein of transparency, I did put up the city code. It makes me a little nervous because of it not being codified, and it's so it's not reliable. But when people are looking at how to develop in Athens, it's important for them to have kind of information at their fingertips. So I put that up, and I also put a zoning map up. And great question about zoning, and it's I encourage you, and I sent you all the definition of arterial commercial, which is what most of this land that we're talking about is zoned. So I sent you those few pages on that classification that the city council set. So that's your work, is to set zoning. And those areas where are zoned arterial commercial, it's very specific about what is allowed there. And so we'll see what, I feel very good about what those developers are bringing forth and that they're interested in. We're moving forward on it. So I think that's an exciting time. We all know how valuable it is to get some commercial property in town and on the tax rolls. From the tax roll standpoint, but also just vibrancy, allowing it, bringing in, some more amenities for the community. So, so that's a couple of things. If you have questions about zoning or anything, please let me know, and I'll try to get some more information out there so that you feel really comfortable to be able to talk about those as we move over the next few weeks and months. So, Teresa Roadshaper, it had submitted her first draft of financial reports that's on the agenda today. It's in your packet, and she is going to be on the line to answer any questions or maybe walk through a little bit of that financial report. This is probably the most financial, it's absolutely the most financial reporting that you've gotten since I've been here. Teresa, I'm not sure if you had things that you wanted to start with, or if you just were on to answer questions.
I'll briefly run through stuff. I know you guys have been there a while, so I'm sure you are ready to wrap it up, so I don't want to take too much of your time. But the first report that was given in your packet is like a monthly report, summarization report. And what I've done is I've taken that G-Works report. You should have had the G-Works report that was both a revenue report and an expense report. And those reports were maybe somewhere between 9 and 14 pages long or so. But it actually is giving you council in there all of the details of what the budget is, what has been spent this month, where we're at year to date, and then the percentages. So all the detail is in the report that looks like it's been generated off of your financial software, which is all true. And then I take that information and I prepare for you this 2.5-page written document. And from this written document, then what I'm going to tell you each month is kind of where you're at in the budget year. So if we start July, you're only 8.33% into the budget, and I usually try to give you bulleted points of information if we're falling anywhere from 10% above or below the average. But just to begin with, for this first month, I thought I'd point out, obviously we're at 8.33, we're probably not anywhere too askew anyway. But I want to say, first of all, on this first month, just so you remember, the general fund, the special TIP revenue fund, which TIP revenue is all in special revenue, and your debt service fund, you know, most of that revenue is coming in all through property taxes that people pay, and people don't have to pay that till in September. So we don't really get that that revenue. So you're going to see that fall below the average as we go forward the next 2 or 3 months. And that's why we have to have a reserve. When I talk about needing a 25% reserve, we're about 3 months into the year before we even really get any tax revenue. So we've got to operate on something. If you look at your water and wastewater numbers, you'll see you're kind of right where you should be for the month. So and you guys can't see me using my hands. They're moving miraculously, showing you where we're talking about, by the way. But on the first page of that report I gave you, then the second page, for revenues, I give it to you by fund, general, special, debt, capital, and then your enterprise fund. Then when I get down to your expenses, I'm going to give it to you more in the program areas that we have to report to the state of Iowa, because that's how we get dinged if we have overspent in a program area before we amend the budget. And so you'll see the 9 program areas at the bottom of that second chart, and you'll see that maybe general government is running at about 16.7% of the budget. You know, that's where you're paying the interim city administrator contract and the ESG accounting services contract out of. I'll talk about that more in a month or two, or when I come to a council meeting in person, a little bit about how we're charging all of that out of curiosity. But community and development, on the other hand, is way lower than anyone everywhere else's, and you know, that's where you have zoning fees and some community beautification expenses, and we haven't hardly spent anything at all this year, as we have not spent any debt service or capital projects, and our enterprises are still running a little bit lower than normally. So I don't know if we're ramping up for projects or not, but those are the questions that if you looked into the detail of the financial sheet, you would maybe get more of an explanation. But just so you have it exactly, I then always kind of put the little, this is the actual chart, this is the actual sheet and the information that has created the chart up above. So that's just there for you to look at in case you had any particular questions. So that's the first 2 items. Then I included in your packet what I call the bank reconciliation. And when I made that document, what I'm trying to show you, and I don't know, Sandy, if you're showing them to them right now or kind of helping me out by showing which one I'm talking about.
No, we don't have screens, so
But they have their packet maybe.
yeah.
So if you look at that bank reconciliation report, it's the visual on that is like your accounting fee, like when you had accounting back in high school. And on one side of the page, we have our book balances, which is the balances we have in our system, GBooks, on our books. And then that's on the left side. And then on the right side is where we have our money at the bank. And I made a couple asterisks and notes over here because what Trish has presented to me regarding the bank rec has to do with outstanding deposits, both in our checking account and our savings account, and outstanding checks, which she has verified. Then she has some that she's doing some research on, and they basically are I don't know, Sandy, how you want to explain those, but it looks like it's things that are just out there that aren't even supposed to be out there.
Yeah, they should be cleared, yeah.
And she's trying to clear them all up. It's something they discussed with the auditors. So the point is that then when you take all those actions, your books should obviously match what you have at the bank, okay? And so at the bottom of the page, you'll see that our books and our adjusted bank balances do match. And the next report, which is your treasurer's report, it too should have a total bank balance, ending cash balance, should also match the ending cash balance that we just had on the bank reconciliation. So all of those tied together should match. And on this treasurer's report, which is a little bit more detailed than the one that comes off of QuickBooks, or comes off of GWorks, this one's giving you every fund you folks have. So in the general fund, you have just your general fund, quite frankly. And then the special revenue funds, you have road use tax. Then you have a fund which I didn't know you had until I started doing this, which was the utility tax replacement fund, which you have no money in. It has been around for a very long time, apparently. And then you have the employee benefit fund, and you go through. And so I subtotaled them. So you'll see, just like we would have to report to the state, and we'll have to report on the state FR, what your total general fund balances, your total special revenue balances, your debt service balances is, your capital project balances, and then what your enterprise balances. And so, unfortunately, we know we have a negative enterprise balance in the water fund. We currently have a positive balance in our wastewater fund. So, obviously, we have a positive net balance in our total enterprise, and then that gives you what our balance is overall. So those are the monthly reports I plan to give you each month after the bank's been reconciled. If there's adjustments or more information or something different you wanted regarding those reports, I'd be happy to work on that. Just let me know. The other financial report that's included in your packet was the outstanding obligation or debt report, which is a state report that's due to the treasurer of the state of Iowa by August 31st. It's been done and formally filed, and it too is a report there for you to receive and file. So, any questions?
Thank you very much. Everything looked great.
Thank you.
I agree, Teresa, everything looks really good. I haven't seen nothing like that in almost 3 years, so. Thank you.
Well, I'm gonna start working on your annual financial report next. I don't wanna go off on, I don't know, on a ditch, Sandy, maybe you can help me with that. That email from that citizen was just that to one councilman or all councilmen?
Yeah, let's not get into that.
Okay, well, I will have, I have to have the state help me a little bit, but I'll be able to get a response so everyone knows.
Yep.
Some more information about it.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yep, thanks, Teresa. This is really gonna help us, I think, improve our decision making in the town, so. That's badly
Well,
needed.
like I said, let me know if any of you have anything else you'd like, or you'd like some report tweaked in another fashion.
Okay, any council reports?
I had a quick question, Sandy or whoever. I know we got all the tree removal stuff going on. Have we gotten our money back from FEMA for the tree stuff yet?
No.
I know there was,
Yeah.
that's the project.
Yeah.
Roughly how much money are we talking?
Mayor,
About 350,000.
yeah,
Okay, what steps need to
Mayor.
take to get that rolling?
Oh, we could talk about that later.
no, it's, yeah, the mayor and I mentioned, we've just discussed that. We will absolutely make that a priority to draw down those funds. especially based on the progress we're gonna make on tree removal.
Well, that's what I'm asking, if we can get that money, so we can take that money and
Yep.
do the other project.
Well, I think you bring up a good point, EJ, as well, that those things should be highlighted somewhere, much like all the financial information out there. What are we waiting for funds to come back in from FEMA and things of that nature?
And that's the only one I'm aware of, but it is on my projects list, because that's another thing that we just have to.
The biggest thing, Sandy, the only reason, Sandy, the reason I'm bringing it up is it's 300 and some thousand or whatever it is, that's huge money. That's pay for the flush, that could pay for all this bunch of different projects, so that has already gone out of the account, that we're just waiting on. So that's why I'm asking.
Sure.
I just, we had talked previously about, regular reviews for Sandy, and I think it's been a while. So if we could get that on for the second meeting in September.
I am out of town, so how about the first meeting in October? Or the 10th?
Sure, or
Either
the
one.
first meeting in September,
You wanna do
yeah.
it? We could do it in the first meeting in September.
Yeah, I'm flexible. We committed to doing that, I believe, monthly.
Mhm.
And I think we further decided maybe we try to do it the second meeting of the month, but I mean, we also have the financial report going on the second meeting of the month, so maybe it makes sense to switch to the first and start that in October, but I just don't want to lose sight of it.
Right, no, I think about it. Yes. Is there a desire to do it in September, or do you want to wait till October?
Let's do October.
Okay. Everybody agree?
Okay. All right, future agenda item discussion. I think we've heard a few things tonight. Okay, hearing none, moving on to public input for items that are not on the agenda for this evening. Open up to members present. Public present. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to just announce the next regular council meeting will be held September 10th here at the City Hall. We do have the September 5th meeting as well. We'll post that as it comes available. And that concludes our business for this evening. And we would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
In a second.
One second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, voice?
Bye.
Opposed, same?
Aye.
Thank you much. Motion carries. We are adjourned.
This meeting is no longer being recorded.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure, no problem.
No,
You
current.
got a question?
The only thing
Because heated and cooled every day. Water, corrosion.
This is what I'm about to- you own you can't have auto repair business if you want to. You don't want to go to a firm that specializes in hiring mechanics for automobiles as opposed to somebody who's never hired a mechanic. That's different. They're just different. They're more of a headhunter. We work in this sector all the time. This is my bread and butter. But I'm not saying that about them, they're just different. And they don't have any direct experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.